Members, we've got a quorum already, so may I now call the meeting to order. Please invite the administration in. This is the Product Eco Responsibility Amendment Bill 2013. This is our 11th meeting, so welcome once again. Yes, good morning.
請入。出席嘅官員呢，包括
We have with us Mr. Andrew Lai, Deputy Director of Environmental Protection, Mr. Samson Lai, Assistant Director of Environmental Protection, Ms. Selina Lau, Senior Government Counsel, and Ms. Chang's SAO EPD. So, members, let's confirm the minutes of the meeting held on the 29th of November. The Secretariat hasn't received any proposals for amendments. So can we confirm the minutes, please? Right, thank you very much. Next, meeting with the administration. We had a meeting on the 8th of January, and we cannot discuss paper CB1914/02. In fact, we received the paper only yesterday. And so please, can someone take us through the paper? Thank you, Chairman. Good morning. I need to apologize to the Chairman and members because we were only able to issue the paper yesterday and not earlier. We were waiting for the latest update from the Retail Management Association. So let me briefly take members through the paper. So we're trying to respond to issues raised by members at the meeting held on the 8th of January. First of all, statistics on the disposal of plastic shopping bags between 2009 and 2012 as reviewed from the landfill surveys. And we've also got the sources of the plastic shopping bags. Members can refer to Annex A. The first three categories, retail category. These are retail outlets covered in stage 1 of the plastic shopping bag levy scheme. You can see that in 2009 the number was 657 million, and then in 2011 the number dropped to 146 million. So you can see why we'd like to take forward the PSB levy scheme. And then the remaining categories are not covered by phase 1 of the levy scheme. So you can see that according to the landfill survey, in 2009 the grand total of PSB was 4.6 billion, and then 2012 5.2 billion. You can see that from 2009 we had 14% of the PSB coming from the retail outlets covered by the levy scheme, but then in 2012 the percentage dropped to about 3%. So we should look at the full picture coming out of the landfill survey in order to judge the effectiveness of the levy scheme. And then B, the legal advisor last time asked us to clarify the word this or that. Now in the bill, this means the amendment bill, because in Schedule 5, some of the provisions will be deleted, but some of the provisions will still remain in force. So that refers to the existing ordinance or the pre-amended ordinance. Then C, Now, if the bill is passed in the first quarter of this year, then we hope that the new phase of the levy scheme can take effect from the 1st of April next year. Last time, some members said that concerning the application for registration and the application for exemption, in the first phase there was an appeal mechanism. And now I want to explain that we hope to launch the next phase of the levy scheme on the 1st of April next year. So in other words, no retail outlet will need to apply for deregistration. So there will not be any exemption mechanism, there will not be any deregistration mechanism. But then before the 1st of April 2015, in other words, if we receive an application, say on the 31st of March 2015, then we will adhere to the present appeal mechanism in the ordinance. But of course, if the case can't be resolved before the 1st of April, then come the 1st of April, there will no longer be a deregistration mechanism. And I believe the retail sector is clear about such arrangements. And then D, members were worried that some members of the public paid 50 cents, but then they did not know whether the retail outlets concerned were registered outlets to collect the levy. So on the 31st of March 2015, we'll take a snapshot, assuming that the amended ordinance will come into effect on the 1st of April 2015. So on the 31st of March next year, we'll take a snapshot as to the list of retail outlets covered by phase 1, and then the list will be uploaded onto our website for record purpose, so that members of the public can have this list for their reference. And this is going to be an open document for the reference of the public. And then E, this is a concern raised by members, especially Mr. WU Chi-wai. Now, when we expand the levy to cover all retail outlets, and at that time there will no longer be a registration system, and the levy collected by the retail outlets will not have to be handed over to the government. And members would like to know how we can assess the effectiveness of the expanded scheme. Mr. Ho, now because A, B, C, D cover different areas, so can we have a pause and ask some questions? Which paragraph would you like to ask a question on? D. All right. So can Mr. Lai please pause? But then I want to remind members that Mr. WU Chi-wai needs to leave at 9:30 a.m. and we also need some time to deal with Mr. Wu's amendments. Yes, very quickly, Chairman. D. Mr. Lai said that he was he was worried that when members of the public paid the levy, they might have doubts as to whether the outlets were qualified to collect the levy. But then the list that you're going to upload onto the EPD's website will represent the position as at the 31st of March only. Yes, thank you, Chairman. Because last time, a member said that for the for phase 1 of the levy scheme, it's going to end on the 31st of March, and then there will be a new scheme, so to speak, under the 1st of April 2015. And so the public may want to know which outlets are covered or will be covered. And so the member wanted us to compile a list of retail outlets under phase 1. So we'll upload the list onto our website on the 31st of March for record purpose. So the public will know which outlets are covered by phase 1. Yeah, I'm not against this objective, but then you said that when the public paid the 50 cents to the shop operator, they might have doubts as to whether the shop was really qualified, so to speak, to collect the 50 cents. And you said that your proposed solution was to upload a list on the website. But then from the 1st of April onwards, the scope of the scheme will be expanded, and if members of the public refer to the list, they may not be able to find the new outlets on the list. Chairman, so this is a snapshot of the position as at the 31st of March 2015. In other words, retail outlets which have been registered and which have been authorized by the EPD to collect the levy.
At the last meeting, members were not concerned about phase 2 of the levy scheme and which of the retail outlets can charge the levy. Instead, they suggested that for the next few months, or in borderline cases, how can the public know whether or not the retail outlet can charge the levy? They would like such information to be provided. At the second stage, when the scheme is extended to the entire retail sector, we won't have any more registration system. In that case, will you, withdraw the list? We will emphasize that that list would only apply to the is actually a snapshot of the retail outlets covered by the pre-amended ordinance. That is, starting from April 1st, 2015, the PSB levy scheme will enter into a new stage, namely that the scheme will be extended to the entire retail sector. So it's simply a snapshot. At the last meeting, members would like to have a complete record. Of course, we welcome the government doing this. Of course, we need to monitor how the government will, do it. Mr. Wong, I think the phase 2 of the PSB levy scheme, I think the administration is both ignorant and incompetent. Well, you propose to put the list on your website. If I go to a retail outlet, do I need to carry a computer to verify whether or not this outlet can charge a levy? Placing the information on your website and asking the public to check online is simply a stupid idea. It's simply not practicable. You're just paying lip service to queries made by members. You've come up with such a silly response to our questions. Secondly, for phase 2 of the PSB levy scheme, we are focusing on the use of plastic bags and not who is entitled to charge a levy. I think the Bureau should have the principle, namely that we want to protect the environment, we want to minimize the use of plastic shopping bags. So at any outlet, anyone who asks for a plastic shopping bag will have to pay a price for the conservation of our environment. I think according to what you've told us, and having read your paper, I'm really infuriated. what exactly is the purpose of enacting this piece of legislation? I think this kind of explanation offered by the administration is really very, very inadequate. According to what you say in your paper, that in future I can anticipate many disputes for those which are not on your list, and if they were to charge a levy, would they be in breach of the law? As a computer, I would take along an iPad and challenge the retailer, claiming that they're not on the list and therefore they're not entitled to charge a levy. I've always taken opposite view. I think this piece of amendment is neither here or there. I think we're totally, confused as to why you've come up with this amendment. I don't think you need the list. At any retail outlet, anybody who asks for a plastic shopping bag will have to pay a levy. Don't come up with a list. I think that list will simply, create disputes and arguments. I don't think you should come up with that list at all. Would you agree? If you think about that. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Wong Ting Kwong, for your views. Mr. Wong, I'd like to thank Mr. Wong for his supporting our effort to encourage the public to use fewer plastic bags through the levy scheme. So I think we are on the same side, Mr. Wong. After the levy scheme has been extended to the entire retail sector, there won't be any registration system, there won't be any list. When members of the public go to a retail outlet to shop, other than where exemptions are granted, then the members of the public will pay 50 cents if they ask for a plastic shopping bag. We're grateful to Mr. Wong for his views. We certainly will step up send out this message to our friends in the retail sector. Regarding our response in Section D of our paper, I think the chairman summed it up very well. This is actually a response to a point made by members at the last meeting, that is in respect of Phase 1 of the levy scheme. If people should query whether a retail outlet has the right to charge the 50 cents levy, and whether there is an legal basis, this Section D of the paper is a response. We're saying that yes, they can do that. We can take a snapshot and come up with a registration list. So that snapshot will apply to the situation as at the 31st of March 2015, and the list will be put on our website for the public's reference. But if you've paid any attention, according to the requirement under Phase 1, the registered retail outlets, with permission from the director, should display the certification conspicuously in a conspicuous location at the premises. So if any customer goes to a retail outlet and if he argues with the operator whether or not he is eligible to charge a levy, then the shop owner can refer him to the certificate issued by the DEP. So I think the operation for Phase 1 is very, very clear. And Chairman, I simply can't follow his logic, Chairman. According to what you've said, you are sending out the wrong message or concept. We're talking about which of the retail outlets can charge a levy and which cannot. That's true in the case of Phase 1. But in Phase 2, I think those which don't charge a levy will be the exceptions. As a general rule, all retail outlets will charge a levy. So the list that you come up with, I don't think you should blindly follow member suggestions. You should adjust your mindset. Don't come up with such a list. I think the list will apply to the exceptional cases where the retail outlets will not charge a levy. So those which are not on that list will have to charge a levy. Could you do it the other way around? Would that be a better way to enforce it? Would it make it easier for the public to understand, so that there will be fewer disputes between the public and the retailers? And by that time, I mean, member public could simply, carry an iPad and challenge the retailer and say he's not on the list and therefore he's not entitled to charge a levy. So I think you should do it the other way around. Any retailer which is on the list will be exempted from charging levy. I think we're talking about phase 2 of the scheme, and this point has been suggested by members. Well, it's right for members to put forward this idea. Well, Mr. Wong, I think your views are valuable, and I'm sure the government will think about it carefully as to how it will deal with your point. Because there are some members of the public who ask for a snapshot, while others have expressed concerns like you've just done. So I don't think we have a conclusion yet, but I'm sure the administration has shared your point. Mr. Vincent Fang. Chairman, I share Mr. Wong Ting Kwong's point of view. I all along have been against this levy scheme. It's not because I am against environmental protection, but rather what you're doing doesn't really serve any purpose at all. What sort of snapshot do you want to take on March 31st? What is the purpose? I don't understand your purpose. If you say that these are the retail outlets which have participated in phase 1 of the scheme and now they will retire, then give them a certificate saying that you have been very good and conscientious retailers. You've taken part in phase 1 of the levy scheme. As from tomorrow, we'll enter phase 2, which means everybody will have to pay a levy. Like Mr. Wong Ting Kwong said, there are some shop premises like restaurants and eateries, they are exempted, right? So for those outlets which are entitled to such exemptions, you should issue them a certificate so that they can display them at the premises. So the public will know that every retail outlet will charge a levy except for the bakery, and they are exempted, and there's a certificate to show to prove that. So when the consumers challenge the retailer why he charges 50 cents levy, then the retailer can refer to the certificate saying that. But that's phase 1. In phase 2, everybody will be charging a 50 cents levy. For those which are granted the exemptions, then you should have a certificate saying that the government has allowed these premises to be exempted. That will make things a lot clearer. You say on the 31st of March, phase 1 of the scheme will stop, and you would like to thank them for participating in phase 1 of the scheme. Just give them a certification and commend them for the cooperation. So what's the point of taking a snapshot on March 31st? I think any shopper should try to check whether or not the retailer has that certificate. If the retailer doesn't have that certificate, then he can charge a levy. So for 2,000 to 3,000 outlets, why don't you give them a certificate each and thanking them for their taking part in phase 1 of the levy scheme when now we're into phase 2, and that would make things a lot clearer. I think this is a statutory requirement in the bill. It's not. Well, we're talking about the enforcement of the regulations. I think the enactment of the legislation, in considering the enactment, we have to also consider whether or not it's on how it's going to be enforced. No. If you may allow me to finish first, Mr. Wong, I'd like to remind members that this part does not have any direct relationship with the part of the bill which is being scrutinized, except at the last meeting members raised this question. Let's understand the background to this discussion, because not all members attended each and every meeting of this committee. Well, Chairman, I think you need to note what is the purpose of enacting the legislation. You shouldn't be bound by the wordings in the bill. I understand you need to deal with this, but you can't just be bound by. You can't simply say that we'll stick to the legislation and forget about everything else. I think in reality, this simply cannot be enforced. Don't just be bound by the provisions of the bill. Mr. Wu Chi-wai. Chairman, I think they've actually said more than what is necessary in the paper. The snapshot is already on their website. So the register already exists. It's not a question of enforcement because the register is there already. Today, any consumer, if they want to check whether or not a particular retail outlet is entitled to charge a levy, they can already check that register now. So what they say in this paper reflects the present situation. The so-called snapshot means that anyone who is registered before the cut date, I think they're already on that list. Mr. Ong Ting Kwong, Chairman. Well, as members responsible for scrutinizing the bill, we have to not only consider the text of the bill, but also the legislative intent, and also the question of enforcement. If we enact a piece of legislation that cannot be enforced, and we have many such examples, although it may not have any bearing with this piece of this bill that we're looking at. Now, I don't want the Bureau to, come up, with this idea in the abstract. Mr. Vincent Fang and I are real operators in the retail business. We understand the commercial operations and also the mentality of the consumers, and we're able to give you, an objective analysis.
Of course, consumers welcome things that are free of charge. If they need to pay, they of course will not feel very good. So when the levy scheme is expanded, then all the retail outlets will collect the levy. So the future situation will be different from the present situation. Under the present phase, 50 cents needs to be paid only at certain retail outlets. So at the moment, for shops collecting the levy, they have to put up the signs, but in future, no signs will need to be put up. For retail outlets that do not charge a levy, perhaps a certificate, as Mr. Vincent Fang has suggested, should be issued to the outlet. Otherwise, consumers should know that if they do not see the certificate, they will have to pay 50 cents if they need a plastic bag. Now, I want to say that I support environmental protection, but that it doesn't mean that I support this bill. But as we have this bill, I need to give you my advice concerning how you can take effective enforcement action. So this is why I'm giving such advice. The government is being criticized for many of its policies, and I do not really want to see the government being blamed or being criticized because of this. All right, so let's continue with our discussion on paper CB 1914/02 E. Yes, Chairman. Now, the levy scheme will be expanded to cover the entire retail outlet. There will the retail sector. There will no longer be a registration system, and the retail outlets do not have to hand over the levy collected to the government. So how will we be able to assess the effectiveness of the levy scheme? Now, we can see from the landfill survey figures that after the levy has come into effect, plastic bags coming from the outlets covered by phase 1 only accounted for about 4% of the total number of plastic bags, or 3% of the total number of plastic bags disposed of at landfills. And Mr. Wu asked whether the retailers covered by the current phase can continue to, after the commencement of this bill, release figures concerning the number of plastic bags distributed. And the HKRMA during the Lunar New Year period, which was a very busy period for the retail sector, asked the retail outlets whether they would be willing to voluntarily take part in such a program, because when the scheme is expanded, there will no longer be a registration system. The retailers do not have to release their figures. They do not have to submit the levy collected to the government. And retailers under the HKRMA, like Mr. Vincent Fang and like Mr. Wong Ting Kwong, are supportive of environmental protection, and they have all along held the position that consistency and equality are very important. And so, if they're of the view that if the scheme is to be expanded to cover the entire retail sector, then they don't think certain outlets or retailers should be singled out to submit the levy, to keep statistics, and so on and so forth. And so these retailers have told the HKRMA that the HKRMA can act as an intermediary and can collect the relevant statistics from the retailers, and then the figures can be given to the LegCo for its reference. And in fact, 11 registered retailers have already indicated that they would be willing to support the proposed reporting system. And they operate um, 85% of the total number of retail outlets covered by the current levy scheme. So, as the HKRMA is willing to support the voluntary reporting system, we will be able to know the number of plastic bags issued by these outlets. Mr. Tony Chair and then Ms. Sit Ho. Yes, Chairman, I think it's good to collect more data from the market. It is said that retailers which are willing to take part in a voluntary reporting system account for 85% of the total number of retail outlets covered by the current scheme. Of course, we welcome that, and we hope that more retailers can join the voluntary reporting system so that we'll have more data to assess the effectiveness of the expanded scheme. Ms. Sit Ho, I want to state my position here, Chairman. In fact, for the spill, what I'm most concerned about is without the requirement to submit the levy to the government, we would not be able to assess the effectiveness of the expanded scheme. Now, we went on a site visit to the refuse transfer station, and we learned firsthand how the bags were counted, and I hope that for the under the expanded scheme, the sampling can be done more frequently, so that we'll have a more accurate assessment of the effectiveness of the scheme. And then now we understand that the scheme will be expanded to cover fashion outlets, luxury goods outlets, and we understand that for some of the paper bags, they may be laminated. But I understand that for laminated paper bags, the levy still has to be paid, and so I think paper bags should not be laminated because and perhaps Mr. Vincent Fang can help urge the retailers not to laminate the bags, but rather to say stamp chop a stamp on the paper bag saying that it is recyclable. And I want to say that I do accept the arrangement, the sampling arrangement. Thank you. Mr. Vincent Fang. Chairman, concerning the expansion of the current phase of the levy scheme, I have all along raised my objection. So what is the government's objective? So is it that as a consumer you haven't brought your own bag, you want a bag, and so you be punished, you need to pay 50 cents, and next time if you do not want to pay the 50 cents, you have to bring along your own bag. So that's the message I believe you want to send to members of the public. But at the moment, the 50 cents, the levy collected has to be submitted to the government. Though I understand that the objective of the measure is not for fiscal purpose, but then this phase of the scheme will be expanded, and all consumers who haven't brought their bags will be punished. They will have to pay 50 cents. But then the beneficiaries will be the retailers, the shops. The retailers do not need to donate the levy collected for charitable purposes or environmental protection purposes. They can just simply pocket the levy. And the HKRMA, yes, the administration thinks that it is very cooperative and supportive, but in fact all the numbers are in the computers, and so I don't think there will be any difficulty giving the government the numbers. Now I want to say that under phase 1 of the levy, I believe the administration has collected tens of millions of dollars, and in future this amount will be pocketed by the retailers themselves. And I think the government should urge the retailers to contribute the or to donate the levy collected for green purposes. And I don't think retailers should simply pocket the levy. And then I've looked at the table in Annex A. Under phase 1, we're talking about 3%. And you are expanding the scheme to cover other outlets. And you can see that in fact, the largest percentage is taken up by the category others. And so I think we should focus on this category. So I want to know what trades we are talking about. and they issue 80, or they are responsible for 80.94% of the total number of plastic bags. So in fact, you should focus on others and not the other retail outlets. So what shops are they? What retail outlets are they? And do you know that for others, if you can achieve a 10% reduction in the number of plastic bags, then that would be a great achievement, because for the retail outlets, we're only talking about 3% in the first phase, right? Can you please provide answers to Mr. Vincent Fang's questions? And also please address the concerns of the other members. Yes, Mr. Tony Chair. According to the HKRMA, 11 members will take part in the voluntary reporting mechanism. As members are aware, the retail sector was extremely busy during the Lunar New Year period, and so some of its members haven't really given replies to the HKRMA. And we believe that the HKRMA will urge more of its members to join the voluntary reporting system, so that more information will be made available to LegCo and to members of the public. But then we must understand that this is a voluntary reporting mechanism. The retailers can decide whether to join the system or not. But of course, the administration would like to see more retailers joining the system. And then I thank Mr. Ho for supporting the sampling arrangement at the landfills. Ms. Ho wants us to increase the frequency of such sampling exercises. We'll be talking to our colleagues. Now, in fact, out of the 5 billion plastic bags used, over 4 billion came from others. The category others, and Mr. Vincent Fang would like us to find out what sort of shops these are. So we will ask our colleagues to follow up. Now, Phase 1 was launched about 5 years ago. I want to tell members that this is not a punitive system. If we had wanted a punitive system to change consumers' behavior, we would not have proposed only 50 cents as the levy. In fact, it's an educational program. In fact, not many members of the public find 50 cents of levy unaffordable, but then they understand that they should do more for the sake of protecting the environment. And so this levy has proved to be effective, and I thank Mr. Wong and Mr. Vincent Fang for their advice. We understand that they are extremely experienced in the operation of the retail sector, and we will of course continue to seek the views of the two members in the implementation of the scheme.
Final point is about how the proceeds collected should be dealt with. Mr. Vincent Fang was most correct. Through the levy scheme, the retailers have to surrender the proceeds, but it's not a purpose to collect a revenue. So for phase 2, in order not to disturb the normal operations of the retailers, we no longer will require them to surrender the proceeds. It will be up to them to deal with the proceeds. From the reply of the HKRMA, other than supporting the extension of the levy scheme to the entire retail sector, secondly, they will also encourage the members, through this voluntary reporting system, supply the figures to us every year. The chairman, Ms. Smack, also send out a message that we really appreciate it. That is, the HKRMA has indicated to the EPD that those who join phase 1 of the levy scheme, that is during phase 1 and after phase 1, they've never treated the proceeds from the collection of levy as income or revenue for their organizations. So if they do not need to surrender the proceeds to the government, the HKRMA would encourage its members to use the proceeds on measures that can help protect the environment, instead of treating it as an alternative source of revenue for the companies. So really appreciate this corporate social responsibility gesture on the part of the HKRMA. Thank you. Mr. WU Chi-wai, followed by Mr. Wong Ting Kwong. Thank you. Well, I've already proposed a CSA, and this has actually resulted in the HKRMA taking this extra step. And this step is a response to our concern. That is, after we've implemented phase 2 and the levy is going to be charged across the board, we want to ensure that we will be able to continue to collect the data. I think the important principle behind phase 2 is that during phase 1 we only cover the larger chain stores. Mr. Vincent Feng and Mr. Wong Ting Kwong talk about the 80-odd% under the others category. And they were not covered by phase 1 of the levy scheme. For example, the red or white plastic bags or yellow plastic bags that we're given without any labels. I think the biggest problem would have to do with these kinds of plastic bags. At the previous hearing, which I attended, the newspaper vendors said that if we're allowed to charge a levy, then they would be able to make amends for a decision that they made out of good intention, which resulted in an unexpected, consequence. Because so I think the system can help correct some of the previous bad practices, and I therefore support the bill. And I really appreciate the gesture on the part of the HKRMA so that I can further explore whether I would need to submit my CSA anymore. Having heard members' views today, and if we can achieve the purpose, I'm prepared to accept not moving my CSA. Thirdly, I note that the chairman of the HKRMA will do her part to liaise with the members of the association, but I hope that commitment could be made more specific. I don't know whether we can have a review a year later about the progress achieved by the HKRMA and whether the tariffs the levies that they've collected. I mean, large organizations may be able to do that, but I wonder whether or not the HKRMA can set up an environmental protection fund so that people in the environmental business will have an additional channel through which they can apply for funding to protect the environment. So I hope the HKRMA can further explore these possibilities so that in the process we'll be able to maintain this dialogue and do a good job. So what I'm saying today is that I welcome this new gesture from the HKRMA. I also like to ask the Bureau and the Department to come up with specific measures with the HKRMA so that people from all walks of life can work together to reduce the use of plastic bags. Mr. Wu, I'd like to follow up on a CSA which you earlier on proposed. From what you told us just now, are you saying that we no longer need you are prepared to withdraw the CSA? In my amendment, in my CSA, I said I didn't want to see a more complicated charging regime, so I've taken out the part involving the levies. I only want to insist that we should maintain the records. You can imagine that the records will only relate to the larger chain stores. Since the HKRMA is now assisting us in doing this, I'm sure most of the larger chain stores should be members of the HKRMA. So if the trade could do this, I think this is something that we should encourage, and therefore I'm prepared to withdraw my CSA. Mr. Wong Ting Kwong, thank you. Given that, according to the ordinance, the retailers will have to surrender the 50 cents levy collected from the consumers during phase 1, and they also need to submit their accounts to the administration. I have no query about the trade's willingness to support the government in protecting the environment. However, maintaining the sales records and the accounting records, really, means involve a substantial administrative cost. So after the implementation of phase 2, their operating costs could be reduced. Are you aware that the retailers would need to appoint one person to specifically take care of the work required under phase 1 of the levy scheme? So if you're proposing to collect the figures from the HKRMA, I really doubt whether or not this is sustainable. I'm just giving you this piece of advice. Of course, Ms. Mack, the chairman of the HKRMA, is very enthusiastic. Many of the members are most supportive of this effort. But we don't know whether or not this is going to be sustainable in the long term. Secondly, even if you were to do it with the help of the HKRMA, the coverage of the survey would be very small. The use of plastic bags involve different trades and industries. Even you go to a laundromat, they'll give you a plastic bag. If you have your suit to be dry cleaned, they will give you a plastic bag. Even the undertakers use plastic bags. And even if you buy offerings, to be burned, again, it's packaged in plastic bags. So if you just rely on the HKRMA, then you only be able to collect part of the data. To collect accurate data, I've suggested right at the beginning that we should take the problem at source. That is to conduct a survey of the amount or number of plastic bags imported. We can find out how many plastic bags are imported during phase 2, because in Hong Kong we no longer manufacture plastic bags. Everything now are made in the mainland. So if you want to collect accurate data, you should do it at the import stage. Last time when we visited the refuse sorting facility, I really appreciate the work done by the staff at the facility. They did not work in a very congenial environment. It's very offensive, work, but they were very meticulous in what they did. However, however meticulous they may be, it's not 100% accurate. So, I mean, the data you collect there can only be used for reference. If you want to find out how effective this new system will help protect the environment, you have to change your mindset. And you need to collect data at source, because that will give you more reliable data. It will give you, and also it can help improve the workload required. Okay, we will now come back to Mr. WU Chi-wai. Thank you, Chairman. I hope the HKRMA, even if they have very crude figures, they would encourage more of the members to participate in this voluntary reporting system. I understand that all the shop operators, they will regard this as part of the operating costs. So even if it will not be difficult for them to provide such data, even if it's not 100% accurate. So through the HKRMA, I hope that we'll be able to extend the coverage, even if the data collector may not be 100% accurate. Of course, Mr. Ong Teng Kong also made an important point. We should, through different channels, cross-check the effectiveness of the scheme, and that we should conduct timely reviews regarding how plastic bags are being used in our community. Let's come back to the government's paper. We still have paras 10 and 11. Although Mr. WU Chi-wai already clearly stated that he will now withdraw his CSA. But I'd still like the administration to walk us through those two paragraphs. Thank you, Chairman. Paragraph 11 is rather straightforward. We hope that Mr. Wu will understand that if we were to accept his CSA, it may pose a lot of challenge in terms of operation. So we hope that members can support the bill proposed by the administration. Now that Mr. WU Chi-wai has already said that given the HRMA has now come up with a voluntary reporting system, he is prepared to withdraw his CSA, and we really support that. Mr. Vincent Fang. Chairman, I'm very pleased to hear Mr. WU Chi-wai withdrawing his CSA so that we don't have to waste time. But I have a question regarding the table. Perhaps the administration could tell us this. When you extend the scheme, when you go into phase 2 of the scheme, which are the categories which will still enjoy exemptions? Will the bakeries be exempted, continue to be exempted? Could the administration go through the list and tell us which categories will continue to enjoy the exemptions and which will not? Phase 1 only cover 3% of all the trades. Now that you extend into phase 2, so could you give us the respective percentages for these different categories?
And the category others, 80.94%. So concerning the 80.94%, can you give us a further breakdown? Now, because I understand that apart from the first 3 items, the rest will come under phase 2. And you can see that under phase 2, only the 80.94% has not been itemized. So we want to have a breakdown of others so that we can talk to those trades and urge them to reduce the issuing and use of shopping bags. Yes, Chairman, concerning Annex A, you can see that that accounts for over 80%. So, and I would like to explain, and my colleague Assistant Director will explain why we have difficulties further breaking down this category. In fact, as Mr. Vincent Fang, as Mr. Wong Ting Kwong have pointed out, from the 1st of April next year, the entire retail sector will be covered, except for the exemptions provided for in the bill. For example, some frozen food items and other food items for the sake of food hygiene. Yes, we understand that for certain types of shops, it's more likely that they will be exempted, but that may not always be the case. For example, bakeries and cake shops, because they sell food items, bread, and then we've got another item, cooked food outlets. Say, for example, if people dine out and cannot consume all the food, then the plastic bag may be issued to as contain the remaining food item, and that may also be exempted. Say, for example, say during Mid-Autumn Festival, now there where there are moon cakes in iron boxes or cans, and if the customer requires a plastic bag, of course the levy will have to be paid. So we won't designate certain shops which do not collect the levy. So that's why our publicity and public education work in the coming year is going to be extremely challenging. That's why we hope that the Bills Committee can complete a scrutiny of the bill as soon as possible, so that we can resume second reading in LegCo next month. We understand that there are many retail outlets, tens of thousands of them, and we need to carry out publicity and public education. And so we think we need about a year to prepare for the commencement of the bill and to carry out publicity and public education work. And so this bill can commence till 1st April next year. And so if the bill can't be read a second time in March, then we may have to further put back the commencement date of the bill. And we hope that more retail outlets can be incorporated into the scheme, because the objective is clear, and so we hope that the bill can commence as soon as possible. Now, that's why working in the government is different from working in the business sector. I understand that you have this very grand objective, but then I want to say that there will be confusion. People will get very confused. Now, for example, you can't simply say that bakeries and cake shops, for example, will be exempted, and so there will be disputes between the consumers and the shops. Now, officials may not be concerned about individual cases, but then we who do business have to make sure that things get done. Bakeries and cake shops 6.98%, and that's and we're talking about 2 times the percentage in phase 1. And then I think what's important is that you have to deal with the 80.94%. Then restaurants 4.8%. All right, cooked food outlets 4.8%. So how can you differentiate between a plastic bag for taking away food that has not been consumed and a plastic bag for buying a catty of Chinese style sausages from a restaurant? And then say cooked food outlets. Say I think the Chinese style sausages are quite good, and I'll buy one catty. And I understand that a levy needs to be paid for that plastic bag. But then if there is food that I can't consume and I want to take the food away, then the plastic bag issued will not be subject to the levy. And the same applies to bakeries and cake shops. Bread. Now, if I buy one bun, then the plastic bag will not attract a levy. But then if I buy a tin of mooncakes and then I want a plastic bag, then I will need to pay 50 cents. And the situation can be very confusing to the consumers. No, some bakeries and cake shops, they have pre-packaged cakes and bread. And so if the consumer wants another plastic bag, then he or she will have to pay 50 cents. So it would be simpler if you say exempt bakeries and cake shops or exempt cooked food outlets. Our objective is to target the 80.94%. For example, we want to achieve a 10% reduction of this 80.94% this year and 15% reduction in the second year. So there's no use trying to take out 0.2% from the 4.8%. You may think you are very fair, but I think you will also be giving rise to a lot of disputes, conflicts, controversies. So please deal with the 80.94% and please come up with an ambitious plan to bring down this number. I want to say I oppose the expansion of the levy scheme. I think you've bowed to pressure. Consumers are punished. They need to pay 50%. But who can benefit? The shops. The shops can pocket the 50 cents. And even if I am willing to donate the levy collected to charity, the donation is done in my name. The administration says that as objective is not to punish the people, but I think you are trying to reduce the use of plastic shopping bags by punishing those who want to get plastic shopping bags. Now we just hope to step up public education so that members of the public will make the best use of resources. And for certain items, we because of food hygiene purpose, really need to issue plastic bags. We do understand that the government understands the legislation and enforcement actions more, but then of course we really need to seek the advice of experienced retail operators like Mr. Vincent Fang and Mr. Wong Ting Kwong. We need to seek advice from them. Now I and Mr. Wong are willing to give advice, but the advice is always fallen on deaf ears. Perhaps Mr. Lai can tell us more about the 80%. I understand that Mr. Vincent Fang wants us to deal with the biggest source of the PSBs. Concerning others, now I want to say that when we do the counting of plastic bags, we look at the appearance of the shopping bag, the shop sign, and you know, sometimes some plastic bags, white or pink, are given to consumers, and we can't identify the source. And we believe many of them come from wet markets. So under phase 1, for plastic bags issued by supermarkets, there was a 90% reduction. But then under phase 2, we may not be able to see such significant improvement. But then we understand that dry goods operators will be affected by the bill. But then when we have decided that under phase 2 we need to expand the levy scheme to cover SMEs as well, because we understand that many of the plastic bags come from SMEs. The administration says that its objective is to educate the public, but I don't think you really understand the worries of the retail sector. Do you know that the retail sector may be prosecuted if they breach the law? So the business sector doesn't see this as a measure of public education. They are concerned about the penalty. I want to say that in fact many in the retail sector have really raised a lot of queries.
For example, some proprietors of bakeries have told me that if I were to buy a bun, have you ever gone to a bakery to buy a bun? You have. Once you select a bun and put it onto the tray, and the cashier will put the bun into a small plastic bag, right? A transparent plastic bag, very thin plastic bag, and then place the several buns separately into a larger plastic bag. And they asked me, how should I charge the levy? And I said, according to my understanding, the small plastic bags containing the buns, no levy will be charged. Otherwise, 50 cents is a large proportion of the cost of the bun. But the larger plastic bag, then you have to pay. That's how I explain it to them, because we need to protect the environment. But from what I've heard the director telling us, apparently those even for that larger plastic bag, the consumers don't have to pay, right? So I'm wrong. So the so-called sleeveless plastic bag, every time a consumer asks for such a bag, they have to pay 50 cents. Except for those plastic bags which are in direct contact with the food item, which are exempted. Apparently, I've given the wrong interpretation to the trade, and I have to explain to them that the consumers don't have to pay for that so-called sleeveless bag. Secondly, the restaurants. Mr. Vincent Fang talked about the kitchen waste and that we need to protect the environment, so the consumers may ask for a PVC box or a food container to take away the leftovers. Again, the restaurant will give the patron a sleeveless plastic bag. So the restaurants, ask me, including the clubhouse to whom I'm a member, whether the consumer need to pay for those bags. I said certainly. While the patron don't have to pay for the plastic box, the so-called sleeveless bag. They have to pay. Apparently, I'm wrong again there. According to the director, I think no levy would need to be paid for that plastic bag. So the trade is very worried about the question of penalties. So with the enactment of this bill, or when the bill was proposed, they asked me these questions. So there are many ambiguities in this bill, and once it is enacted, I'm sure there's a lot of work you need to do because the situation varies from ministry to ministry. Another problem, I don't know whether or not you've explained this before, for items which are independently packaged. Have you gone to a shop selling snacks like chewing gums? They are sold in separate sticks. Many of the mint candies, they are wrapped independently. So I mean, they're sold by weight, right? These candies. So the shop will give them a plastic bag. So will there be a levy charge for that bag? Perhaps you can clarify this point for me. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Wong, for your question. It's exactly because the operation of different trades would vary. So I'm sure members understand that we are in a bill. We are focused on the principle. If there's no exemption, then we will enforce the law across the board. However, we need to be reasonable, and in the bill there are already exemptions provided. So for the next year, we need to do a lot of publicity so that the public will understand. We also need to have more focused promotion with the catering industry or the stationery stores. We need to approach individual trades and industries and conduct focused group type of briefings, so to help to understand the spirit of the law. I hope I can give you the assurance that even though the bill provides for penalties, however, if we look at the experience in phase 1, which has been implemented for close to 5 years, our colleagues have conducted several thousand inspections, and the number of prosecutions were fewer than 10. So I hope that the law is not so complicated, and the operation of this piece of legislation is not really that difficult. So together with better publicity and promotion, we certainly will be able to manage. And I also like to point out that the plastic shopping bag levy is a requirement by the administration, but individual business entities will have their own policies, and that had nothing to do with us. Say if you go to a Hong Kong style restaurants, they charge you $2 extra for takeaway items. Well, that would have nothing to do with the administration. It has to do with the policy of the establishment. Again, we will not interfere with their operations. Mr. Ong Ting Kwong. I'd like to put forward a request to the Bureau. After you started implementing phase 2 of the levy scheme, for those of you who draft this bill and for us who scrutinize this bill, there are many things, scenarios that we're not able to exhaust. The operating environment will also keep changing, so new scenarios may arise. If under certain circumstances somebody breached the law and have to be punished, could you give us this undertaking that for the first breach, you will only issue the warning? Only after the established concern repeat the same offense again, would it be punished? Because we're not talking about homicide or serious criminal offenses here. Sometimes, they simply they don't really want to breach the law. It's just that the legislation is too complicated. This is something which will affect the daily lives of the people and the business operations of the business entities. It's just so easy to initiate prosecution. Sometimes there are borderline cases. There's a lot of gray areas. And it's up to you to decide sometimes whether or not there has been a breach. And because of these ambiguities, the operators and the consumers, they don't want any disputes or trouble. You told us that it's up to the operator to decide whether or not to charge a levy. I think you and I both have the experience. For some restaurants, they don't charge the $2 extra for the plastic bags required for takeaway items. If you don't know the premises well, they will charge you. If it's a regular customer, I don't think the proprietor would dare charge that levy. I mean, I'm sure you have a similar experience. But going forward, with the legislation in place, even if the proprietor wants to, do a favor to his customer, he will be in breach. So this is what the business is worried about. The business sector is worried about. If you would prosecute upon the first offense, that is exactly what the trade is worried about. And they're worried that because of that, the operating environment will deteriorate. Mr. Vincent Fang, I'd like to remind the Bureau that you shouldn't be complacent. You say that you think that you have been very successful with Phase 1. And there had not been many breaches in Phase 1. Of course, you're talking about 3,000 odd establishments. These are large establishments. But now you extend the scheme to wet markets, dry goods vendors, and these are hawkers. So the objective is entirely different. Previously, you were talking about 7%, but now you're talking about, other establishments. Previously, in Phase 1, we were talking about the larger establishments, and they wouldn't make mistakes. In Phase 2, we'll be talking about hawkers, wet markets, and SMEs, and they've always operated in the same manner. Like the candies, which are sold by the weight, you now have given them the exemption. For those in the trade, even if you give them the exemption, you will continue to do even if you don't give them the exemption, they will continue to do the business in the same format, even if you were to find them. So you need to be careful with SMEs. Like the Bureau said, many of those under the others category are wet markets, and the goods they sell are food items, and according to the law, they would enjoy the exemption anyway. But for the vendors selling dry goods, you would tell them to be careful. Like Mr. Wong Ting Kwong said, your shop selling candies and so on, they're already given the exemption. So we need to look at those which are left behind, which don't enjoy the exemptions. How many are there? You need to look at them closely. If the number is not that large, why don't you just relax it across the board? I mean, how many undercover operations can you undertake? I mean, we're talking about SMEs and people from the grassroots level. If you take away the rooms of survival, it's certainly not conducive to social harmony. Mr. Lai. In preparing for public education, maintain a dialogue with the trade and so on, I'm sure this is a consensus among the committee. That's why in the course of the deliberation we've worked so hard to define clearly the items which enjoy the exemption. So at this stage I have a question regarding paragraph 5. Thank you. If one goes back to the administration's paper, that is, if the director decides to refuse the application, then the decision to refuse registration will only be issued after April 1st. According to paragraph 5, if the DEP has not rejected the application before April 1st, then the extended phase will take effect on the commencement date, and there will be no need for the DEP to make any decision on the application in this regard. We heard just now that the trade is view regarding whether or not they need to apply for registration and how, and all along we've not really dealt with any such appeals. So I'd like to ask the administration this. I mean, just in case, let's say on the 20th and 21st of March, I want to, revoke my registration. The administration may need some time to deal with my application, and eventually that decision could be made on the 2nd of April. So I only will have the right to appeal after I've been given the right to appeal. According to Schedule 5, Section 6 of Schedule 5, it is said that on and after April 1st, if the director were to issue an assessment notification to the shop proprietor through the appeal mechanism, let's say I claim that my premises shouldn't be required to charge a levy. I mean, could you deal with such an appeal through that mechanism so that we don't need to have a mechanism to deal with the application for revoking the registration? Mr. Lai, I think the legal advisor's understanding is correct.
Now, of course, the director has to make a decision first, and then if the retail outlet feels aggrieved, then of course an appeal can be made under the appeal mechanism. But then if the decision is issued very near to the date 1st of April, then the retail outlet can still make use of the mechanism under Cap 1 to lodge an appeal. The mechanism is there, though the possibility of such a case is very slim. Thank you. Thank you for your clarification. All right, members, if you have no further questions, then we'll go to the next item on the agenda. I think we've already completed the discussion of paper 914, bracket 02. Now, in fact, we are to discuss Mr. Wu's amendment, but then Mr. Wu has already indicated that he will withdraw his amendment. So if there is no other business, then I think we've completed our work. So can I ask the administration whether the resumption of second reading will take place on the 19th of March or the 26th of March? Thank you, Chairman. We just hope to have the resumption of second reading in March, and both dates are agreeable to us. Ms. Sit-ho. Yes, Chairman, I hope that the administration can come back as soon as possible, because we don't know how long we have to wait if there is if the filibustering starts. Yes, we understand that the administration needs adequate preparation time if the bill is to commence on the 1st of April next year. And so let's assume that the resumption of second reading debate will take place on the 19th of March, and members must or officials must notify the House Committee of the date on by the 25th of February, and then we'll submit a report to the House Committee on the 28th of February, and the deadline for members for officials rather to give notice for second reading debate 4th of March, and then the deadline for moving CSAs on the part of members 10th of March. And if we are to resume second reading on the 26th of March, then the officials need to give notice to the House Committee by the 11th of March, and then a report will be made to the House Committee on the 14th of March, and then officials need to give a notice for resumption of second reading by the 17th of March, and then on the same day we'll have the deadline for members to move CSAs. All right, the meeting is adjourned. Thank you very much. Thank you.